Hello everyone, my name is Cassandra and welcome to my kitchen. One of the things that I like to do is bake. I like to cook as well, but most of the time I'm taking recipes and I'm modifying them and making them my own, which is what I'm going to do today, and I'm going to bring you along with me. Yesterday I baked a blue velvet cake. We've always done red velvets and I'm not a fan of red velvet. I've tweaked it and tweaked it and tweaked it, and it's just something about it that just doesn't resonate with my taste buds. But I've seen the blue velvet cakes and I've seen the purple velvet cakes. And so I've been playing around with them, tweaking the recipes, and I think I have the blue velvet down. It got raving reviews on last night, so much so until I have requests for two cakes. Right? So also I like to share with you that I am a chemist. And I use my chemistry techniques, skills, theoretical background to bake and to cook. Chemistry is just following recipes, and there's a lot more to it on the calculation side, but in the lab it's just basically a recipe, just like in the kitchen. So I use all of my knowledge for the flours that I use, the cocoa, the eggs, the butter, the oils. Everything is based on the chemistry behind it and how they would gel, for a better word, together to formulate the cake that I have in mind. And we all have different taste buds. I cook to satisfy my taste buds and the people who I serve. In your kitchen, you will do the same for your friends and your family. Okay? With that being said, my disclosure is what I do to satisfy me. I don't care to entertain other people's thoughts about what I do in my kitchen, because this is my kitchen. I pay for everything that's in here, and I'm not trying to be rude. It's just that I know on YouTube people get a lot of negativity. I take suggestions and comments, and I will play around with it and see if it works for my taste buds. If not, then I move right on. Because everything I do to satisfy, again, myself and the people that I serve. Okay? So with that being said, let's get started. I have pre-measured everything that I'm going to use for the cake. It is, again, a blue velvet cake. I have 1.5 cups of sugar, which I'm going to double my proportions because I'm going to make 2 cakes, as I stated. And these are going to be 3-layer cakes. And I have 1.5 cup of sugar and 1/2 cup of butter, and that's per cake. I have it in my KitchenAid blender here. I've already measured it. I'm going to start the blender, and I'm going to cream the sugar and the butter for about 4 minutes. Okay? So while this is going, I'm going to put you on pause, and then I'll rejoin you when I'm ready for the next step. As you can see, the sugar and the butter has been creamed. Now I'm going to add, for one cake, it's 1/2 cup of sour cream. But again, I'm doubling my proportions, so I'm going to use 2 cups of sour cream. I already pre-measured one. I'm just going to add this to my sugar and butter creamed mix. Then I'll add another 1/2 cup. And what I'm going for here in terms of chemistry is I'm going for a homogeneous mixture. I want a solution. I want everything that I'm mixing to mix well together. Of course, it will not be clear and colorless as in the lab when we do techniques there. It will be actually a batter, more of a mixture of all of the ingredients, but they will be uniformly mixed. Nothing will settle out, and hopefully, properly, once it bakes, everything will come together and it'll have the same wonderful taste as the one that I baked on yesterday. And I've been baking for a while, and I also love to cook. I'm gonna get a spoon right quick. In general, I do everything from scratch. I do not bake using cake mixes. I try to use high quality ingredients. But I will say that I have tested some of the store brands or off-brand products, with the exception of flour and milk. I use a lot of organic products as well, and they seem to hold up pretty well. The taste is not as delectable as the organic products that I use, but they've all seemed to gotten the job done. Okay, so now I have my cup of sour cream added to my blender. So now I'm going to mix this. And again, I know you don't want to hear the blender, so I'm going to put you on pause and I'm going to blend this, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, as you can see, I added the Daisy whipped cream and sour cream, I'm sorry, and it has mixed very well with my sugar and butter. It's very creamy, very smooth. You don't see the graininess of the sugar, you don't see any streaks of butter. I blended it again for about 4 minutes to get the consistency that I was going for. The next ingredient that I will add will be the vegetable oil. Okay? So there's 1 cup of vegetable oil, well, 3/4 cup to 1 cup of vegetable oil per cake. I'm doubling mine, so of course I will be using 2. Okay, so that's the first one. And then I will transfer the second one to my measuring cup and then to my batter. Okay. So, and while this mixes, I'll put you on a pause. I'm sure you don't care to hear the blender, and I'll be right back with you for the next ingredient. Okay, I'm back. All right, so now I have it to the consistency that is very whipped. It's very fluffy, very, very, very creamy, like the consistency. So now I will add 6 eggs. 1 cake takes 3 eggs. I'm making 2, so I'll be using 6 eggs. And the key is that when you add the eggs, you allow them to come to room temperature. You can do that by just sitting them on the counter for 30 minutes, or you can place them in the sink in some warm water for about 15 minutes. Okay? So with that being said, I add my eggs 1 at a time. I'll add an egg, allow it to blend. I don't whip it in 2 to 3 minutes. I just allow it to mix in very well, and I continue adding the eggs until they're all blended in well. And then I will do a 2-minute mix on it to make sure that all the eggs are well beaten and that they are mixed in very well with my batter. Okay, so I'm going to add the 6 eggs. Here's the first one. I just simply crack it on the side, and then I'm going to add it to my bowl here. And then I'm going to let it mix, just blend it in. I'll rejoin you on the next one. Alrighty, so now I'm on to the next ingredient, which will be buttermilk. 1 cup of buttermilk per cake, so I'll be adding 2 cups of buttermilk. And I will say that the order in which you add your ingredients, I've learned over the years, is that it makes a world of difference. A lot of people just mix everything in together and blend it and throw it in the oven and wham, there it is. But I will say, again, that every ingredient has a purpose in any cake that you bake, pie that you fix, dish that you prepare for your family. And the sequence in which you prepare it by adding the ingredients makes the world of difference, especially adding all of your dry ingredients together in a container, then all of the wet ingredients, you're blending those, and then adding your eggs 1 at a time, and then not just throwing the oil in, the buttermilk and the eggs, and just blending it all together. So here I have the buttermilk, and I will blend it and mix it. I'm just going to give it a quick blend here just to have it whipped in to the batter. Nothing spectacular. And I do it at a very low speed when I'm like mixing the ingredients. I don't put it on high. Once I get everything in and get it to the consistency that I like, I will scrape down the sides of my bowl. Then I'll give it a really good high let it sit, some of the things will settle out. So I make sure that I'm blending it well and that I scrape my sides and everything is to the consistency that I want. Okay. So I think the buttermilk is very well blended in. So next I'm going to add the vinegar and the vanilla flavor. So for one cake is 1 tablespoon of vinegar. I'll be using 2. And it's just your white distilled vinegar. And as far as the vanilla flavor, I use Watkins Bacon Vanilla. I also use the Watkins Clear Vanilla. And for this one, you need 2 teaspoons per cake. So that'll be 4 teaspoons for this cake. So at this point, I have all of my wet ingredients blended. I'm going to go ahead and mix the vinegar and the vanilla flavor in. And then once I have this to the consistency that I want, I'll be ready to add all of the dry ingredients. So I have everything well blended. At this point, I'm ready for my dry ingredients. Well, the first dry ingredient, of course, is flour. So for 1 cake, you'll need 2½ cups of flour. For 2, of course, I'll need 5. Right? So I have my flour, and you also have to add 2 tablespoons of cocoa. And you whisk the flour. You can use all-purpose plain flour, or you can use your cake flour, whichever you prefer. I cook from scratch, so I usually use the White Lily all-purpose flour. Okay, so I whisk the flour and the cocoa and a teaspoon of salt in with the 5 cups of flour. I whisk it all in very well, and as you can see, it kind of gives you the hot chocolate look like the cocoa. And I'm going to add this slowly to my wet mixture. Okay, so I'm going to add it about 1/2 cup at a time. So I'm just going to scoop up 1/2 cup to a cup, and I'm going to add it to the wet mixture, and I'm just going to put it on slow and let it blend until it's all mixed to the consistency that I would like. Just making sure that everything gets mixed well, that nothing settles out. That's the key to any cake that you bake, not just blue velvet or the red velvet or the purple velvet. That's to any cake. So now I'm ready to add the next cup. And as you can see with this one, again, I do it on low speed. I'm just mixing everything. I'm getting it blended. Once I have everything that I need incorporated in here, including my food coloring, then I'll give it a really, really good blend. I'm going to fold it all in very well. So I'm going to throw you on a pause right quick while I add the rest of my flour, and I'll be right back with you. Okay, I have added the food coloring as well while it was blending. I added 2 tablespoons of blue food coloring, and I also have a tweak to it that's what I like to give it a certain blue color that I would like. So you can play around with your food colors because you know which colors blend to give you which colors if you don't want that particular color. So I kind of play with it until I get the consistency of the color that I like. So I did add a hint of about 3 drops of a different food coloring to give it the blue color that I like. But again, that's your personal preference. Okay. So now I'm ready for the last ingredient, which is the baking soda, baking powder, and of course you mix it with water. So I have 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking powder to 2 teaspoons of water. I doubled the proportions for the cake that I'm going to make. So I'm going to add this to the mix, and with this one, you don't have to give it a good blend. I've already scraped down the sides of the cake and batter and make sure nothing is resting on the bottom, and got a really good blend on it, because this is the last ingredient. And here you just simply want to fold it in, and at this point it's now ready to go into your pre-greased baking pans. So I'll set the oven to 350, of course, and then I'm going to pre-grease my 9-inch pans. These are Wilson's, but you can use whatever you have. I'm sure they'll be sufficient. I do use Pam Perfect Release. I spray the bottom. You can spray the bottom, and also you can line the bottom with parchment paper. I bake in these a lot, and I've never had anything to stick. The key is to make sure that you grease the pans very, very well. If you would like to add the parchment paper, you grease it, add your parchment paper, and you're ready to go. But I won't be adding parchment. I'm just simply going to grease my pans well, add my batter, and then I'm ready to bake. I just make sure that everything is very well. And I'm going to do a 3-layer cake, so I'm going to grease 3 pans. So again, you don't want to just really mix it at this point. I feel that everything is folded in, and I will lift up my blender, and as you can see, this is the blue color that I started with. I didn't want to be a very intense, like royal blue for this one, because again, I do play around with the recipes and kind of tweak it. As you can see, it's just a tad bit darker than what I originally started with, and I just added a hint of a different color to give it the color I wanted, because I'm making this for someone else, and I'm catering it to something that they're involved in as far as the color. Okay. So with that being said, I'm now ready to transfer the cake batter to my pans, and I'll be ready to place them in the oven. So I'm going to just scrape down everything from the blender and just let it fall off so it doesn't drip onto my counter. Yeah. I don't rush anything. I don't rush my mix. I don't rush the process of getting it in the oven, because I still can take my wooden spoon and kind of ladle it to mix it really good as I'm placing it in. Now I will say that once you finish at this step, for each one of the pans, you're going to evenly distribute the cake batter. You don't just pour some here, pour some there, and pour it there. I evenly distribute mine, and I use it cup by cup. I'll put a cup in each pan until I have nothing left in my cake bowl. Okay, so that's my measurements. Everyone is different. Whatever suits your fancy, that's what you do, because remember, that's your cake. This is my cake. Okay, so with that being said, I'm now going to remove it. I just unlock it. I'll sit it on my counter here. And into my pre-greased pans, I will just simply scoop it up. And I know it seems messy to some people, but I've never known baking to be a beauty. Only the taste is in the end, and the decorations on the cake. You're always going to have to wash. Okay. So I'll just scoop it up cup by cup, and I will transfer it to my baking pans. Again, these are the 9-inch. And this is the reason why I did a double proportion also. I don't like my cakes to be thin. I like for them to have some texture to them, but to each his own, again. And I'll just keep adding until the pans are filled to the consistency that I desire. Okay. So I'm going to put you on a pause while I fill these. Okay. Now, I'm ready to place the cakes in the oven. So what you do with each cake, which I've already done it for each one, but for those who are new to baking or have never known this before, what you do is you take your cake plate, your cake pan, and what you want to do is lightly tap it on your counter. What you're doing is you're going to release the air bubbles or the air pockets that are within the dough, so that when or within the batter, so that when the cake actually bakes, it bakes consistency. You don't have any holes or gaps between it when you cut through it. You cut consistently with the slice of cake. So you just simply take it and you just lightly tap it. And when you tap it, you're going to see like little bubbles that come up from the bottom, and they're going to pop on top. You don't have to do it too many times. Just tap it about 5 or 6 times, maybe 10 at the most, each one, and then you're ready to place them in the oven. The oven is set at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and it is ready. It is a preheated oven, not a cold oven. And so I'm going to open the oven door, and I'm going to gently place each of the cakes in the oven. Now that I have all 3 cakes in the oven, they're going to bake for a total of 30 minutes. So the time is 5:24, right? So we'll just say 5:25. So at 5:50, we will remove the cakes from the oven and we will allow them to cool. And I will also, once they cool, wrap them in saran wrap, and I will place them in the refrigerator for an hour to allow them to cool. And then I'll come back and I will place the icing on. Now I'm going to be making homemade, from scratch, cream cheese icing. Right? So what you're going to need is an 8-ounce pack of Philadelphia cream cheese. You sit it out, allow it to come to room temperature, which is what I've already done. And you're going to need 8 to 10, and I usually use 10 tablespoons of butter. And the butter is unsalted butter for the cream cheese icing, and it's unsalted butter also for the cake, right? So I've already allowed this to come to room temperature. So 1 stick of butter is 8 tablespoons. So I'm going to place this in my blender, and I've already cleaned the blender as well. So. So that's 8, and this is 2 cut from another stick. Right. So I'm going to place this in the blender as well. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open the Philadelphia cream cheese, and I'm going to place it in the blender. Now sometimes I don't have to cut this, but for the sake of time I will. You just sit it out 30 minutes to an hour, just let it come up to room temperature. When I start mixing the batter for my cake, I usually pull everything out about 30 minutes prior to, and just let it all come to room temperature. Right, so I'm going to add my cream cheese. Then I'm going to allow it to mix very well. And once my Philadelphia cream cheese and my butter is creamed, I'm going to be ready to add my confectioner's powdered sugar. Right? So I'll place you guys on a quick pause. I'll blend this, and I'll be back with you. Now that my Philadelphia cream cheese and butter is mixed, I will add 6 cups of confectioner's sugar, and I will add them 1 cup at a time. I don't add all 6 in. I do it 1 at a time, let it all get moist. And again, in the end, I have a perfect cream cheese icing. So that's my first cup. I will start the blender, and I'll place you guys on a quick pause, and I'll add the other 5, and I'll be right back with you. All right, I have removed the cakes from the oven. I let them cool in the pan for about 5 minutes. I released them from the pan, and now I have them resting and cooling on parchment paper. I'm going to continue to let them cool until they come to room temperature. Then I'm going to wrap them in saran wrap, place them in the refrigerator for about an hour to allow them to cool completely. because that helps when you have like any of the velvet cakes, red velvet, purple velvet, blue velvet, pink velvet, any of them, or any cake that you would like to icing, especially if you're using cream cheese icing. If you place them in the refrigerator and allow them to really cool, it helps the icing to actually stay in place on the cake. Even though it'll heat up as you spread it, it allows it to actually cling to the cake, adhere to it, and then when you place another one on top of it, they don't slide. They actually stack very well, and the icing goes on very well, and you don't have crumb of the cake into the icing. Because I cut the sides off of the cakes, so you don't have any of that cake batter or cake baked in the little crumbs that actually end up in your icing. Okay, so I'm going to just allow these to continue to cool, and I'm going to clean up some of the things that I've used and just get everything back in order. And I will pick you back up when I'm ready to place them in the refrigerator, and also when I'm ready to icing them. Hello everyone, I finished the bake. I'm going to turn you around so you can see the cakes. These are the finished products. This one, as you can see, has been cut and it is blue. So I will say success. I would like to thank you for joining me. If you learned any tips from today that will help you, then that's awesome. So thanks again for joining me, and I will see you on the next bake.